righty, welcome to another week of I Guess I'll Do It with Pet House. Today is a buddy of mine way long ago from Philly. He's gone on to do Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, Comedy Central, and he's one of the guys I came up with, so I'm very happy to have him here. Big hand, even though there is no crowd, big hand for Monroe Martin. Thanks, dude. What's up?
Hey, man, what's going on? Yep.
Not too much. Good to see you.
You too, man. Good to hear you.
Likewise, man. I think the last time we saw each other was at Magooby's a year or two ago outside Baltimore.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And that was a fun weekend.
That was a very fun weekend. I have fun at that club.
I do too. I went there this past weekend to just hang out because I knew all the comics on the show, and it's only a little more than an hour drive for me, and everything sucks, and we're all stuck at home. Yeah. So I went down there to just hang, and it was so fun.
I didn't even know they were open. I got to try to get back there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've been open for, I don't know, about a month now, I guess.
I mean, well, they have the space. They're one of those clubs that was very ambitious, and so they was like, "Lo, we getting only big acts." So they built that shit like a fucking theater.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. I think it was a theater beforehand, and they converted it. But regardless, it has stadium seating, which is interesting for a comedy club. It's actual like tiers, like you're in like an arena.
I kind of like that though, because now you're not looking down on people. You can just look like straight ahead and like just like up. I don't like looking down on people because I'm tall, so I'm already looking down on people.
Yeah, I'm short-ish. And you're already towering over like the lower floor, but you're kind of eye level with like tier 2 or 3.
Yeah, so that's why I like that one. I'm like, all right, these people right here, I'm only talking to y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you, so yeah, that's where we last saw each other. But I think we met at the Laugh House, I believe. I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. You talking about the beginning? Yeah. At the Laugh House. It was you, Derek Gaines, what's her name? Terry
Young.
Terry Young, Pat Barker, and Lawrence Killebrew.
I was okay. Yeah,
y'all were killing it. Y'all were the shit. I was like,
oh, that's
no. I'm like, me and Derek were talking about it like not too long ago. I was like, damn, I remember starting comedy and y'all were already fucking working, or at least in my mind. I was like, what the fuck? Like, y'all were already the people that were being talked about. And you were like you were like one of very few white guys who did both, who killed at the Laugh House and then killed at Helium. So, you know what I mean? Without changing your material.
Compliments out the gate. I appreciate this. I don't get this from most guests. I'm going to have you every other week.
Hey,
no, thank you. I appreciate that. I remember when you started and thinking you were funny out the gate. I had this weird dynamic where I started at the Laugh House before Helium opened, so all I knew was like the Black Room for a year there, and then Helium didn't host me right away. So, like for my first 2 to 3 years, all I knew was the Laugh House, really.
Yeah, well, it worked out because I was like, God damn, y'all just killing every fucking where.
We were a pretty tight crew there for that time too. We had a lot of fun back then.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I still keep in touch with Pat Barker all the time. He's still one of my very good buddies to this day, and I've been meaning to have Derek on here too. So I would love to catch up with him soon.
Oh yeah, no, definitely put Derek on. Derek ain't doing nothing. He's home,
dude. Aren't we all?
Yep.
I mean, so was your very first set at the Laugh House?
Very first set was at the Laugh House, and it was. Like, I don't know what you remember, but because you were like, first time seeing me, I was funny. Like, I wasn't funny until at least like 4 months into comedy. Miss Mona was kicking me off stage. Like, do you remember Wid was pulling me off stage and Miss Mona had banned me from the Laugh House for at least 2 months?
All right. I have so many questions.
You don't remember that shit?
I don't remember you being banned. But but we're certainly listening.
Okay, so like when I first started doing comedy, I didn't really truly understand the concept of writing jokes. You know what I mean? Like especially like growing up and seeing comedy, all that shit just sounded like something that you hear at barbecues. So that's how I presented it. I went on stage and I would just fuck with the audience, and I would like, and I never truly had a set. I didn't have like jokes. I would just go in there and I would just start talking about random shit. And then the moment I even said like a dick joke or whatever, Wid would come up and like, all right, he started talking about his dick. Time to go off. He's like, nobody wants to hear about your fucking dick. Like, I don't remember. Like, he like cursed me out in the back of the club. Like, you think they want to fucking hear about your dick? There's like, he was like, write some fucking jokes. And then I think like it happened a couple of times. And then Ms. Mona pulled me into the office. She was like, look, she was like, do you have a joke book? I was like, no. She was like, get one. And I was like, okay.
That's the most simplistic advice.
Yeah, she was like, get one, write jokes. And then she was like, you're not allowed to come on stage here until I see you write a joke. So every week I would show up. Only person that would seen this, I think, was Chris Cotton, and I think maybe like Josh Kosh or somebody else. But I would come week after week, and I would have to come in the office. I would have to show her my book. She would look at my jokes, and she'll close it and go, no. And that happened for 2 months straight. I was just like, no. But what ended up happening was, because I couldn't get up there, Chris Cotton and like Belinda and all of them, they would start telling me about like other open mics and shit in the city. So I ended up like really trying to like build the set at those other spots. And then when I came back to the Laugh House, like finally got on stage, I was kind of funny.
Dude, that is so funny. And I definitely did not know that, because I would absolutely fucking remember that.
Oh, dude.
You were the only comic of all of us that had homework.
Yo, I thought she hated me for the longest. Like I
thought that my entire career there.
No. Like even up until the point she passed, I would come and she would call me in the office. She would like review how I did this weekend. She'll be like, you were funny. You were okay. Keep doing that. Stick to those jokes. Or why'd you switch it up? And then she started making me wear button-up shirts. Like she was very involved in my fucking comedy career. And
you think she did that because she cared, or you think she did that as like a well, I'm trying to think. All right, do you think she did that because she cared, or because, not that you were a project, but you know what I mean? You think she saw something that she wanted to take hold of? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Like a part of me always felt like she was singling me out, because like, not because she cared, just because like that's just, she had that power to do so. Like, I don't know, like
an authoritative kind of thing.
You know what I mean? Because like she did that with Chris. She also did that with Chris Cotton. Like she would like bring us both in the office and like analyze our outfits and be like, why are you wearing that? Put on the button-up shirt. Like, why are your jeans so big? Like, I don't know if you remember the phase, but I started wearing like sweater vests with fucking shirt, like collar shirts underneath. I started dressing like I was fucking working at like a Banana Republic.
Dude, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you a story I remembered the other day when I was thinking about you. You and I were doing Two Ray's show in Germantown. I think it was North by Northwest.
Yes.
And you went on before me wearing an outfit like that.
Uh-huh.
And it was an all black crowd.
Yeah.
And I said, big hand for Monroe Martin. He's dressed like Morgan Freeman and Lean on Me.
I remember that shit.
And the place went fucking ballistic. And I couldn't even do my own set because they wouldn't let me.
Yo, yes. I remember that shit. And I was like, fuck. Like, I remember, like, I didn't hate you or anything. I was just like, God damn it. Like, that kind of, like, in my mind, I was like, this motherfucker, he hates me. Like, I promise you.
And I don't even do that stuff. I just said it as an aside to Two Ray, and Two Ray laughed. I was like, oh my God, I made Two Ray laugh. This is funny. So I opened with it. But I ruined my own set by making fun of you.
Yo, I remember that shit. But it killed. It still killed. And I was just sitting in the back with, I forget his name, short black comic. There's a lot of those.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah, he looked like Kevin Hart a little bit, but he was sitting in the back. And when
was it Lawrence?
No, it wasn't Lawrence. I forgot it. Like his name will come. Like his name will come to mind. Like as we keep talking, but like when you said that, he just would not stop. Like every time he looked at me, he just kept busting out laughing, and he was my ride, so I had to just take it.
You had to just take it the whole way home.
Yeah, I had to take it. But yeah, Miss Mona, she like I'm never gonna be like, oh, she was mean to me, but she was very, very involved, like super critical of like me, Chris Cotton. I felt like she loved Derek. I felt like everybody loved Derek. It was me,
Well,
Chris Cotton. Yeah.
Derek was clean and had the good energy, and he would say "mother trucking,"
Oh
and
my
like,
god, yeah. Ugh.
no, Mona wasn't that way with me, but she definitely pulled me in the office, and we had conversations, and she would ask me things, and
Yeah.
not that I got yelled at, but I got reprimanded here and there for a couple things. But then she would say good things, and every now and then, if I knew she was in a good mood, I'd be like, "Do you need to host next weekend?" She'd be like, "Actually, I do," and then done and done.
Yep.
So it was a two-way street. But I mean, there were moments where, even though that was my only club at the time, where I still felt really uncomfortable just saying hi.
Yeah. Now I think she did that on purpose because I think like she wanted you to come in there and be professional. Like, yeah, we were funny. She was making sure that we were funny, but she also wanted us to like come in there and be professional and like not just be hanging out at the bar, even though that's what we ended up doing. Like once she passed away, we were just at that bar.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
also we were all so new. We really didn't know any better. None of us.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know. I mean, we were all working on stuff, but we didn't know what was funny.
Yeah.
And we're all, yeah, we were all brand new figuring shit out. So they're like essentially kindergarten teachers just wrangling us.
Yeah, I think they like looking back, like I feel like my time spent at the Laugh House definitely prepared me for like what I go through now and in comedy. Like, you know what I mean? I have a bit more like I have a little bit more professionalism in comedy than I would have had if like she like didn't do that. Like you've seen the show. Like I stand there and I shake everybody's hand after the show. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, what's up? Thank you. Take pictures. Like I'm very like aware that they even if they didn't come to see me, like they're going to leave knowing who I was and thank them and be and like just be like have gratitude. So she put that in this. Mr. Rod, I don't know what he did.
He did whatever she said.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely learned a lot at the Laugh House, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was a love hate, but it was it was ups and downs. But I mean, I learned a lot there, and
Yeah.
I still have a lot of fun memories from there. And that's where we met. So
Yep.
your very first set was there. Do you remember that very first time? Did you bomb? Or was it
Absolutely.
good?
No. My very first time, like
My first set went well, so don't say it like everybody bombs like you did.
no, I know there's some people who like fucking kill their first time. My first time was okay. Last. I went last.
Oh, so the
It was
crowd's gone. It's like
it
11:45.
was gone. The only people who stayed were the people who like went to like my like foster care after school program. So it was like the staff, and it was just like two white women and just like some dude you can tell didn't have anything else to do. So there's maybe like 5 people left. I tried to do crowd work, but you can't do crowd work with motherfuckers you know. So I was just literally on
At an open
stage
mic at midnight.
at an open mic at midnight, and I just was like saying whatever came to my mind. I think I made a riff on like a Richard Pryor bit about like not having dick control because Tommy Too Smooth was like Tommy Too Smooth said this to me. He was like, "You're funny." He was like, "You're funny." Naturally, he's like, but that joke you told, I can tell you listen to other, like you listen to Richard, you listen to all them. He's like, stop that shit. Don't listen. He was like, stop. Don't be like them or whatever. And that was like the first time I performed. It was
Wow,
bad.
that's I mean, in all fairness, that's really great advice for your very first time. I mean, people get away with murder if nobody gives a shit about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can go on stage and do Bill Hicks or do Pryor or anybody,
Mhm.
and if people dismiss it, they don't care. But if somebody like he probably saw something in there in
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
and was like, "Hey, man, you're funny." But what you're doing, don't do that, which I think is incredible advice for the very first time.
Oh yeah, it was still bad. I was like sweating. Like I had like these big ass sweat stains under my underarms and all that shit. It was only 3 minutes, but that shit felt like 10. It felt like it was like it wouldn't. end?
I don't know if it was 3 minutes or I feel like it could be like 2 or 8. It was just until Wid said, okay, in the
Yeah.
back, and then you knew you were done, or you saw him like waving his papers in the light.
Oh my God, that shit is so funny. That shit, like, depending on how he waved you off stage, you was like, yeah, I bombed. Or if he was like, nah, I'm gonna let you rock, and he would just like sit there and let you fucking rock out, and then just come when the audience is like at like this crescendo when they're laughing, and he'll come up here like, all right, yeah,
Yep.
get to know his name. But when you're bombing, he's fucking waving that fucking paper in your face. You start stuttering over your jokes and shit. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, you have no idea what's even happening because
yeah,
you don't even know what the like. Okay, there's like a light going on, and then somebody's waving papers at you. You just have no idea what's happening.
yeah. No, it was crazy.
So, what got you into it in the first place? Like, what were your like early comedy influences, or like what put you in the direction to say that you want to try stand up?
So the earliest was my friends, like just the people I hung around. They would always be like, yo man, you fucking funny. But to them, like, it I was silly, but to them it registered as funny, and they would go, yo man, you should like try to do stand up or some sort of comedy, like comedic acting. And I just kept hearing it over and over and over again. And then I used to watch this show called Coming to the Stage. You know that show on
Absolutely.
BET. So I'm
Tara
hearing
was
that.
on that. Like
Yeah,
Tara was my first friend in comedy, really, and then she was on that show. Like when we became friends, she was like fresh off that show.
yeah, she did the season. She did like the second season after Denny Live.
Okay.
The season that made me start doing comedy was with Denny Live, because I would watch Denny Live on that show and be like, yo, he's from Philly, he's fucking funny, he's a superstar, like all those things. And then fast forward to like, I've already graduated high school. I'm not doing shit with my life. I'm like hanging out with my friends on their porch early in the morning for no reason. And Denny Live is working. He's like he was like, at the time he was a sanitation worker, so he was like on the back of a trash truck. And I seen him and I was like, get the fuck out of here. And I was like trying to, I was like, yo, then you the dude from TV. And he was just ignoring the shit out of me, but I was persistent. And I just kept going, yo, I know that's you. And my friend joined in too. He was like, yeah, that's you. You that dude. You funny. And then once we said you funny, then he was like, yo, thanks, man. Appreciate it. And then got on the truck and left. But that moment was like, oh, I could do this shit. Cause I would think comedy was something that like acting, where you're like, only a few make it, and you got to be super special to even get on TV and all that stuff. But once I seen Denny, not discrediting him or anything, because he's still a beast, but once I seen him on TV and then seeing he had a regular job, it made it realistic to me. It didn't make it like this fantasy of, oh, I can be a comedian. It was like, oh shit, no, I can be a comic and like have a job while doing it. So
Yeah, because it's a
mhm,
struggle.
yeah.
Dude,
Uh,
a couple years ago, this is like relatively recently, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I
mhm,
opened for Sebastian Maniscalco at the Borgata. It was 6 shows, I don't know, 3,200 to 3,500 people at each show.
mhm,
And I was bartending and waiting tables, which I still do.
yeah,
And about 2 weeks later, I'm bartending,
yeah.
and a guy's talking about being at those shows. And the guy has no idea that he's talking to me about the shows. And I was the guy who opened for Sebastian.
That's
Like,
fucking dope.
yeah, I mean, I didn't tell him either. I let the moment go. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I was that guy. He'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever, fucking you weirdo. But yeah, this dude's talking about how much he loved the show,
Yeah.
and he's talking to the guy
Mhm.
that Sebastian asked to open for him.
That's dope. That's fucking dope.
Yeah, that's cool stories come along the way.
Yeah.
So did you know other stand-ups, though? Like, if you're talking about just BET, did you watch like Comedy Central or HBO at all?
Nope.
Was that...
Mm-mm. So the thing, like, once I started stand up, I started to really like study it a little bit more. And that was just because of the comics I was around, because the more they talked about like, yo, you seen such and such set, you seen such and such special. Like before I started comedy, the only stand up I would watch was Comic View, anything that came on BET,
Mhm.
Def Jam, and then like that was it, and like Kings of Comedy, and like just all the black stuff. But
Yeah.
once I started doing comedy, and like I like met you, I met Anton Schufert and all that stuff. Like I started to learn more about comedy because y'all will watch y'all get excited about acts that came to Helium, and I'm like, well, who the fuck is that guy? Because I'm excited to see Juju Man at the Laugh House, but y'all, but y'all are excited about like I would say like
David Tell or Greg
Dave
Giraldo or
Attell
somebody,
and
or
Greg Giraldo. Yeah, so I'm like, all right, well, this guy is funny too. So I'm gonna go check him out. So I started like doing more research, and I started really watching Comedy Central, and I started like YouTubing clips and stuff, and like studying comedy, and like even watching interviews and stuff. But like, yeah, I learned more. I learned about comedy once I started doing it.
oh, dude, it's the best. It's the best way to learn too by watching you. I mean, certainly you watch people on TV and YouTube and whatever, but watching them at the club week after week, names you don't know, people you do know,
Yeah.
and then just watching like, all right, if there are 5 or 6 shows in a weekend, if you're a fanatic, you watch all 6 because you
Yeah.
want to see how all 6 shows differ.
Mm-hmm.
Like you learn so much by watching that. And I remember when I first started, Bill Burr headlined the Laugh House. And there were so many names I can go back to. Like I loved Rob Stapleton and Capone.
Yeah.
And oh man, I'm blanking on him. I worked with him in Virginia 2 years ago.
What's he look like? Is it Marshall Brandon?
No.
Is he the
Oh
beast?
man, I just said Tony Roberts, Capone, and Rob Stapleton.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna look at Facebook as I'm talking to you. But
Yeah,
anyway,
Virginia
so sitting in the
Beach
back of the room and what this like. When I like stand up before I started doing it, but once I started doing it, I took even more in and I was like all consumed.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. I learned about everybody. Like I was a fan of Hannibal before I moved to New York. Like I would watch all Hannibal's clips and stuff like that. Like I started to like know who the new people on the rise were. Like I really started studying this shit.
Hannibal's so funny. He used to come to Helium as a feature, and then like he quit for a little while, right?
I don't know. I
Or like
think
took a break because he came to feature at Helium and he was so funny.
yeah.
And then he like, didn't come back for a long, long time. And then like he came back like once, and then he was doing like the Trocadero in front of 700 people. Like
I think that break was when he started working at SNL or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
either way, he literally, in terms of like the club perspective, maybe, I'm sure he did his deal headlining clubs, but
Yeah.
from what I remember of him here, he went from like Helium to like headlining small theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. It sometimes it looks that way.
It does, but there's
Yeah.
also, a lot more behind the curtain.
Yeah.
How was your second set? Or all right, let me ask you this. If you said you bombed for a while, what was your first good set where you were like, okay, that was something different?
Good set was probably the first night that Miss Mona let me back in the lab. No, fuck that. I would say because I was running around trying to work out like these sets at like different places so I can get in the Laugh House. My first time killing for like an open mic standard was at you remember that comedy club on like in the Northeast at the hotel at the Best Western?
The Comedy Cabaret.
The Comedy Cabaret. My first time. So Comedy Cabaret let me in, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't give a fuck. Like you know how they are. They're like, if you're willing to travel up here for free, then we'll work you." And
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I remember going up there and being able to like work stuff out, and just one night I just had like a hot ass 5 minutes from beginning to end. And I think I did the yabba dabba do bitch. I don't know if you remember that joke. Like
I absolutely do.
Yeah, I did yabba dabba do bitch. I did Station. Like that's when I really started to develop like at least my jokes weren't about shit, but I was understanding how to be funny. So once my first time killing there, I was like, all right, I know I can do okay at the Laugh House now. And I just went right back there to Miss Mona with the book and the set. Like I showed her the set and she was like, okay. And then I went in there and I did really well. I didn't kill, like knock the fucking roof off, but it was like, all right, yeah, this dude is funny.
No, but you did well. And also like at open mics at the Laugh House on Wednesdays, like 1 out of 4 or 5 were good.
Yeah.
One was like 1 or 2 were like passably okay, and then other 2 were terrible. So it's like a numbers game too. So
Yeah. And
in
they're
your
real
early,
shows.
yeah. Did you
Yeah.
hang out on Thursdays? Because Spank, Will Horton,
Yep.
and Rich Salter had what was it called? Laugh Away Thursdays.
Laugh Away Thursdays, absolutely. That's when I actually started. Like, I would hang out on Thursdays
Yeah,
because,
me too. Every
yeah,
week, every single Thursday.
every single Thursday I was there. I was hanging out. I was watching. I week after week for a while. I would watch you, Derek, Lawrence, Hadia would come through.
Yep.
Yeah, and like a couple other people come through and rock that shit. And I just waited my turn. I would start killing at Wednesdays, and then finally Spank let me. I think, yeah, it was Spank that let me rock out on the Thursday, and then that wasn't my open mic, but that was like your showcase night. Now it was like, all right, you want to perfect the Wednesday set so you can kill on Thursday.
That's exactly what it was. You nailed it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Because Thursday, I mean, the open mic was $5, but I think Thursday was 10.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like, okay, you pay for an open mic, you're still getting an open mic, but you're paying $10 to see a comedy showcase.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more of an invested interest in better talent.
Yeah.
So there was a lot more. Well, no, pressure. In the early days, pressure, because that was pressure for us to do well.
Yeah, there was pressure because the Thursday had like a headliner, right? It'll have the headliner was usually like a Hannibal level comic at the time.
Yeah.
So
it would be a Two Ray, it would be a Denny Live.
Mhm.
Well, actually, back then it would be like Michael Blackson, but then like every now and then, I saw a ton of cool names come through. Like Mark Simmons would do it if he was in
Yep.
town. Like really cool, really cool names dropped in to headline.
Absolutely. So that like, and also like a lot of those people on the Thursday show, those were people who specifically came out for Spank and Rich Salter. So you had to make their people laugh, and they were fucking tough. They would like, if you would kill, they'd be like, yo, that shit you did last week was fucking crazy. Like, it was like they remembered it, and like it just made you want to do better.
I got heckled there on a Thursday on Spank's show.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget. I'm on stage, and to your immediate left was where the entrance was.
Yes.
And right there were like high top tables, right? And I'm getting heckled by Spank's friends.
Oh.
And I guess at the time, I was 2021. People told me I looked like Tobey Maguire, the fucking dude from that 70s show. And what's he, Superman, Spider-Man? I forget now.
Yeah.
But they kept yelling that at me. And I was like, dude, shut the fuck up. I only have 5 minutes. I'm trying to do this here. You're ruining it for me. I forget everything I said, but I spent half of my set going off on him, and the crowd went nuts. Yeah. And Spank pulled me aside and said, that was incredible. You're welcome here anytime.
Goddamn. Good for you.
And that meant the world to me. I was only, 2 or 3 years in. I'm still learning. I'm still new. I'm not hosting at the Laugh House yet, but I had Spank's approval, and it was sincere, man. He pulled me aside to say that. And dude, that stuck with me. You remember stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But those Laugh House Thursday shows became crucial because that was my first like dipping the toes in the water to real shows until they let me host there. And oddly enough, the first show I ever hosted at the Laugh House, I was the host. Joe DeRosa was the middle, and Jay Okerson was the headliner. And all night, everybody kept talking about was, this is the first time we've ever had 3 white guys on the same show. This is the first time we ever had 3 white guys on the same show. And that's all they talked about all weekend.
That's so funny. That's fucked up. That is monumental. And it's like, oh my God, we got the first 3 white guys. It's like, yeah, that's on purpose.
I think though there was a host that didn't show up, and I happened to be there because I was at the comedy club hanging out because I loved Joe and Jay, and there was no host. So Mona was like, hey, question for you. And that's how it started. And that's how I started hosting there. So I hosted by default because I was the only comic in the building. And then I proved to them that I can host. And then they started using me. So it worked out in some crazy way. And that was like the best weekend of my entire life. I didn't sleep for days because I loved Joe and Jay, and the shows were incredible.
Dope. Nah, 15 years ago. 15 years. Hey, it don't matter. It's what kept you in the game.
How old were you when you started?
I started at 22.
Okay.
I just turned 22. That's what it was. Yep. I just turned 22 and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it.
Well, that's still crazy young. You say fuck it like it's a bucket list thing. You're 22.
I know, but like I don't know, like all by the time I was 22, most of my friends who was fucking already had families. You know what I mean? Like they had kids. They were already working at SEPTA. So
Yep.
22 for me was like, damn, I'm getting old because these motherfuckers are already like signing leases for apartments and shit, and I'm like having roommates. So I felt like I needed to do something with my life or with my, you know what I mean? Like I'm still working shitty jobs. I was working at Dave and Buster's and the Philadelphia Zoo, but at least I had stand up.
That's right. You did work at Dave and Buster's. Did you have a joke about that?
Yeah, I forgot the joke, but
Yeah,
then
me too. But now that you
yeah,
say it, I remember that I knew that I knew it.
yeah. I was terrible at Dave and Buster's. I would like if you
What did
would
you do
came
there?
in. I was in the winner circle. I was the person that gave out the gifts. And once comics started figuring out, like the comics who got cool with me, once they figured out that I worked there, I would just like give them fucking free gifts. Like I'd be like, yeah, just make it look like you fucking like put a bunch of tickets in the thing, and I would give away like cards and shit because I didn't
Hey,
care. Yeah.
here's zebra, a stuffed zebra, and some pencils.
Yo, no, I probably now in statute of limitations, like I can't get in trouble. But I was like fucking giving away PlayStations and shit. I would be like, look, this is how you do it. It was me and my homie Rob. And we were like, yo, this is how you do that shit. And we would like teach people like, yo, you gotta come like at least 2 weeks in a row. Fucking here's that you gotta work your card status up. So we'll give you because you couldn't buy a PlayStation if you didn't have like a gold card or like a premium card. And that's only reserved for people who like come and they spend like hundreds of dollars every time they come. But it's easy to get that card because all we would do is like we would weigh the tickets, put the tickets on the card, and then take out the tickets in the trash. So they had like a very flawed system, but we would be like, yo, come get this PlayStation, give me $100.
That sounds like America in a nutshell.
Yo, that's America, yo. America's like, yo, you can only make it if you scamming.
If you show up 2 weeks in a row, you get a PlayStation. That's
Yep.
America right there.
So yeah, I would
How,
hook people up.
so you were 22. What year was that? I'm trying to think of what. Do you remember what year you started?
2007.
Okay, so I was only 2.5 or 3 years ahead of you. Okay.
So yeah, 2007. I thought about like in my mind, I'm like, did I start in 2006? But I don't have like any proof or any pictures of being around in 2006. So I was like, yeah, it was definitely 2007. But 2000,
Ah.
I had business cards made up. I got fucking
So did I, dude. It said for a good time, call, and then Pet House was beneath it.
Yep.
And when I was 19, and I had him at 19, that was the funniest thing in the world. And now I'm like, dude, that's the fucking corniest shit.
Yo, that shit is fun. But isn't that what social media is? Is this the digital business card?
Oh, I absolutely.
Yeah.
But I had printed copies I hand out to people. You can look at my profile or not.
Yep.
But if I hand this to you, you're like, what does this dipshit want?
Yep.
Like,
Vistaprint. Everybody went to Vistaprint. We get the cards done. We would get 100. We'd be like, yo, I'm gonna get 100 because I've done a lot of shows this way. And I would just hand out the cards to anybody who was like, yo, you funny. And sometimes I would get like people who actually reached out to me. Like I did a lot of barbershop shows and like a lot of birthday parties because of handing out the cards, but it wasn't any
parties.
real.
Okay.
It was never any real money. It was all, yo, can you come do my cousin's birthday party? We can probably give you $25, but we'll let you eat. Like you can eat whatever you want. And I'll be like, sure.
It's the same thing some comedy clubs have said to us.
Yep, right. The same shit. Here's $25 and a discounted meal. And we're like, all right.
Well, that's cool that people reached out to you through your card. It happened to me a couple times, but most times it would just be a voicemail saying, hey, you're not funny, faggot, because that happened to me one time.
What?
Yeah, that happened one time. After Rascals in Cherry Hill, I got a voicemail that just said, you're not funny, faggot, and they hung up.
God damn. How many times did you listen to it to make sure
Oh,
it was for
back in
you?
the day, a lot. I was still in college. I was like 21, 22, and that stuck with me. Dude, it's hilarious now. It's probably funny 2 weeks later, but that
Yeah.
night I was like, what the fuck? My like feelings were hurt. Like,
Damn, that shit is funny. That shit, I'm sorry, that shit is funny.
oh, of
I
course
wish
it
I
is.
would have known that. I would have probably did it. I would have probably did it too. Like just called.
Well, I wish I had known that Mona was your kindergarten teacher and you had homework every week.
Absolutely.
How long were you in Philly before you moved to New York?
um, I moved to Philly. I mean, I moved to New York in 2010. So what is that? Like 3 years?
Oh, you were that quick?
Yeah, well, only reason I
Good for
moved is
you.
because Derek, it was two things that happened. It was not me and you, I don't know if you remember, but we were supposed to move around. We moved around the same time.
Yes, we did. I
Yeah,
moved in 2010 or 2011.
it was 2010 because I moved in with Derek in 2010.
Okay, and I
Yeah.
moved in with my buddy who's a DC comic, Ryan Connor.
Mm,
He lives in LA now, but that's who I moved in with.
yeah. So what happened was I like Derek would come back and forth to Philly all the time, and we would like go party and stuff like that, like after shows, and then he would just be talking about New York, and then all the comics that were headlining the Laugh House and Helium knew him already. They'd be like, "Oh, what up, Derek? What up, D Gaines?" All that shit, and then he would be like, "No, New York is where it is." He was like, "You have to figure out how to get to New York." He was like, "If you figure out how to get to New York, I'll let you stay with me until you figure out how to get a place." And when he said that, I was like, "Bet." So for like a year, that was my goal. Like, I got to get to New York. I got to get to New York. And then Chris Cotton, God rest his soul, he did this
Yep.
thing. I was stuck in a lease, and this was a dumbass lease though. It was like I was living like in this place in South Philly, which was like no, not even a 1-bedroom apartment. The way they broke it up was so fucking dumb. But I had my own bedroom and I had my own little living room area, but I had to share the bathroom and the kitchen and other things with people. And my rent was only like $500 and something dollars. And at the time, I didn't really have a job. I was working at AmeriCorps, and they don't pay their people. They give you a stipend, and which is like $140 a month. I mean, a week. So I was using that to pay my rent, and I was just trying to figure out with comedy, but I couldn't. Like, in order to move out of the place, I had to pay like there was like some weird shit, but I had to pay like double. Like I had to pay like my rent plus like something else, whatever, to cover the expenses. And I didn't have that money. And Chris was like, "Is that the only thing keeping you from moving to New York?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, here's the money." And he gave me the money. He was like, "Now
Dude.
you don't have to live here no more." He gave me the money. I paid that shit. I fucking got my friend Stephanie to throw, like, she drove me to New York. And like, I have the foster care mentality, so I don't have like suitcases and shit. Like, all my clothes are in like 18-gallon bins and trash bags. So I had like 4 trash bags full of clothes. We threw them in her trunk. She drove me to New York, and not New York, but Jersey City, where Derek was staying. And I stayed there until like Derek, like, he went through some financial shit, so he had to give up the place. But like, I stayed there until then, and then once I moved out of there, I lived in a hostel in fucking Queens, and it was terrible. People were stealing my socks and shit.
That's what I picture. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. I didn't know that the whole story was like that.
Yeah. But it all happened because Derek was like, "You got to get the fuck up." It was Derek saying I had to get up here, and Naeem Lynn said the same thing. I was doing the Reef. I don't know if you remember the Reef.
Yes, that was Tommy Two Smooth's open mic at 3rd and South.
Yep. So I was
I
doing
remember everything. It's dude, I couldn't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, but I haven't heard the word reef in 15 years, and I knew exactly what you meant.
Yep. I was doing the Reef, and I had a good fuck that. I'll pat myself on the back. I killed in front of like Michael Blackston and them. And Naeem at the time, he was like really making his way up the ladder. And he pulled me to the side. He was like, you got to get the fuck out of here, dude. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you have to get out of Philly. Go to New York or go to LA, but you got to get out of here. He was like, you're funny. And then that and mixed with Derek, where Derek was like, yeah, come to New York. I was like, all right, bet. So that was why I didn't stay in Philly that long.
Wow, I didn't realize. Maybe because we saw each other all the time. Like we saw each other. I don't know what. Jesus Christ, 4 to 6 nights a week.
Yep.
It felt like you were down here longer, but we saw each other at open mics and comedy clubs every night.
Well, the thing was, like, even though I was living in New York, I would come to Philly to work because there was at the time like there was no money in New York for me. Like I was just doing like the open mic scene, and then I would do the produce shows, and even the produce shows were like drink ticket shows. So to like pay rent, I would just be in Philly every weekend. So that's why you seen me, because like Monday through Thursday, I'm in New York running around doing open mics. Friday through Sunday, I was in Philly doing either the Laugh House or like some produce show there. So it gave the appearance that I still lived there. But then Tom Cassidy fucking got in my head. He like snapped on me. He like said something to me, and it just fucked with me. And I got mad at him, but he was telling the truth. He was like we were at what is it? The Renton House room that Jack Martin used to run. Remember that?
Oh my God! Yes, what Rittenhouse room? Where was that?
That was like right near Rittenhouse Square. I forgot the name of it, but it was a fun fucking spot.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him? Is he all right?
I don't know. I seen him once because
he was a little.
Yeah, I think he was dealing with something like personal.
He had some great dude, but he had some mental health issues. You could tell.
Yeah.
He was a really good dude. He was very nice and he cared, but you could tell he had some shit on his mind.
Oh yeah, like when you said like I would watch him go from like, cause like we got super tight and super cool, but like me and him never really, we got into arguments, but it never really got like to the point where we would like fight and like curse each other out, because like I recognized his anger, and I was like, I can get that angry, but there's no need to. But I seen him fucking go, like he would just like snap, and he'll be one way, and then something will set him off, and you don't know what the fuck it is. And then you'll be like, what the fuck just happened? And he's like,
I saw him,
and he had muscles too. Yeah, and this motherfucker have muscles. So you like, nah, you doing too much. You angry and you got muscles. That's dangerous. But yeah, no, Tom got in my head. Tom Cassidy said, like, those little snaps, those little jabs. He said something about like, I guess New York it's something like he like took a jab at me, but it stayed in my fucking head for like a month, where I just like, I wouldn't talk to him or anything, but he was completely right. He was like, why are you always here? Why the fuck are you? He said something in the vein that's like, why are you here? If you moved to New York to fucking go make it and do this, it was like, then why are you here for 10-minute spots? Why the fuck are you hanging out with us when you should be in New York fucking trying to figure that shit out? And then he just kept going, and I was just like, all right. And I was mad at him, but he was completely right.
No, I get that, because I was only up there for a year, and I would come to Philly all the time because I was hanging at open mics, hanging at bar shows, not getting on stage, but I could get an email from Helium that said, hey, do you want to feature on Thursday? That's $100. And then I could pick up, a small, like there was a place called Chuckles in the suburbs. I could headline there for like $120. Yep. So it's like, that's why I'm coming down. I'm not getting any stage time here, and I'm getting 2 20-minute sets for $100 each. That's why I'm coming down here.
Yeah. And I said the same thing, but it was just fucking in my mind, and it just fucked with me. Cause I hold on to, I've learned to let shit go, but I used to hold on to shit. So but that motivated me, because when I like finally was like, nah, he's right, let me go fucking be in New York, I watched, it didn't necessarily open up, but I started to like just find the places that I was comfortable working out at. I started meeting different comics and building friendships and stuff like that. And then by the time that happened, more Philly people had moved up. So now they were like hanging out with me, like, yo, where's the spots? And I'm like, nah, you gotta figure that shit out on your own, but we can hang out at the end of the night. But you know what I mean?
Okay, so where did you start hanging out at? What was your first when you stopped coming to Philly as much as you were? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what was your first step to get ingratiated in New York? And who were the
First,
comics that were kind of helping you out? Because it all
first,
goes hand in hand.
yeah, no, it definitely does. So the first spot I really started hanging out at was the Pit, because Michelle Wolf and Aaron, I think her name was like Aaron Lennox. They had like probably one of the dopest open mics, late night open mics. But it was like I would just hang out there like maybe like an hour before, and I started getting cool with Michelle Wolf. Then I got cool. Then I got cool with like Jermaine Fowler and like Seton Smith and all of those people. But then from there, I started finding other like workout spots. So I started going to the spot in Brooklyn called the Five Spot, the Inkwell. Because the thing that I noticed is like I would do like I had to treat New York like I did Philly. So I didn't want to come to Philly and just do one scene. So I did both. I would go to like the hood rooms and like fucking Jamaica Queens or like Flatbush, Brooklyn. And then I would run back to the city just to do a 3-minute spot on Michelle Wolf show. Because now it was weird. I was working backwards, but I would like try to work out the material at the fucking hood spot and then bring it back to this open mic that really only had like maybe 2% real audience members. But I would just go back and forth. And then eventually I started hanging out at the Cellar before people told you to hang out at the Cellar. Like they always be like, don't fucking hang out at the Cellar. It's frowned upon and this, that, and the third and yada, yada, yada. But it worked out for me because I would do, here's the rooms, not rooms, but the comedy clubs I would be at. I would be at, I would go to Eastville.
Yep.
Even though Eastville, like he still act like every time I meet him, he's like, I know you from somewhere. And I just go, hey man, yeah, you look familiar. And I just play that game. But I would go to Eastville because I would see Janine Garofalo there with Todd Barry. So I was like, all right, I want to be in there because if they work there, then fuck it, I want to be a part of that.
Oh,
so
and they're both so funny.
Yo, they're fucking hilarious. Jim Gaffigan, all that shit. So
yeah, Gaffigan loves Eastville.
Yep, Ted Alexandro. So
one of my favorites. He was my third podcast guest.
Mm-hmm.
Ted and I. Yeah, Ted was one of my favorite comics before I started doing stand up, and then he brought me as his host to Helium in my early days. So yeah. I think Ted's amazing, and I still have just such a soft spot for him all the way around.
Yo, no, Ted's a beast.
He's so fucking funny.
Yeah, I would do that. CB's Comedy Club.
CB's
Broadway Comedy Club. Room. Yeah, CB's was strange, but it's like it worked for some reason. It like worked because that's where like Big J and all of them, like Big J, Louis J. Gomez, Dave Smith, like all of those guys really like they made their place there. Yamanika, like if you went to CB's, you would probably see one of those comics on stage all the fucking time. They were rocking out. It was Mark Theobald. So they were rocking out there. They were rocking out at what's the club? The Laugh Lounge. Laugh Lounge. I think it was called the John near Delante that shut down. I think it was called Laugh Lounge or something like that.
Did the Boston become the Laugh Lounge?
No, the Boston is like it's like something. It's a restaurant now, but they tried to. Okay. So the Boston, it was around the corner from the Cellar. But then once that they tried to open that up to another comedy club, but it didn't work. So the Laugh Lounge was like a different spot, like all the way downtown, like near the Williamsburg Bridge. And that was probably like so that club reminded me of the Laugh House, or at least they tried to do the same thing as the Laugh House, like work you in there by making you do like the Mook shows and shit like that. And like you sit around for hours just for the opportunity to get on. I was doing that. I was at New York Comedy Club. I was at Broadway Comedy. Broadway Comedy Club was the first club in New York City to work me. And they never paid me. It was just the bad, like me, Ricky Velez, It was me, Ricky Velez, Pete Davidson, Nico White. We would just steal bags of chips and food from them. They wasn't paying us. We would do fucking prom shows. We were there every night. Like they can call us like last minute and we'd be there. But like we couldn't get $20 out of these people to save our lives. So we would just be stealing bags of chips and chicken nuggets and hot dogs and shit. But I was working that place, and then I made that place my nucleus. So that was like the place like I made sure I got up at least 5 times a week, and then I would like run to other places. So it was that spot. Then it was New York. I mean, then it was Stand Up New York, like right after Wayne Raider had it. Like it switched over from Wayne Raider to a guy named Benji.
Was Wayne the manager of CBs, or was that a different Wayne?
No, it's the same guy. So
Okay,
Wayne
yeah.
left New York, Stand Up New York to go run CBs.
Okay.
So yeah, so all the comics that were working at Stand Up New York, once he left, he just brought them down with him. Yep. So, but then what ended up happening, I would just hang out at the cellar, and then I hung out the cellar because Chris Cotton told me to. Because I would like to, everybody would be like, yo, don't fucking hang out there. You look corny when you hang out there. But Chris Cotton, this is like years had passed, maybe like, I think like 5 years of like hanging out there. No, not 5 years. I hung out there for like 5 years before, like 4 or 5 years before I got in. But like maybe like a year or two into being in New York, Chris Cotton introduced me to Keith Robinson, and Keith Robinson was like trying to give Chris work, like, hey, because Chris Cotton like family grew up with Keith's family, so it was like I'll show you the ropes. But Chris was being stubborn because he wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to work. I was like, I'll figure out how to be a fucking artist some other time, but I want to work, right? Because Keith would be like, yo, Chris, be personal. I know your parent, like I know about your upbringing. I know your family.
I'll tell your mom.
Yeah, he was like, talk about your life, talk about your dad being a preacher, talk about like be personal. And Chris just refused to be personal. And then Keith shifted his energy to me because I was just like always there. And I remember I always thought Keith was mean because the first time I met Keith was at the Laugh House, and Belinda Cradell introduced me like, hey, Keith Robinson, this is Monroe Martin. He's a very funny comic. And he looked at me and went, I don't want to meet the nigga, and then walked off. And I was like, oh my God, he's fucking mean. That's the meanest shit you can say. So I didn't want to meet Keith again. But Chris was like, nah, he was playing with you. He's
and now
cool.
You just know that's Keith.
That's Keith. Keith is that's just him. And I finally told Keith that. He's like, I was fucking with you. You're probably being sensitive. He was like, yeah. And he like told the story about how some drug dealer he grew up with used to do that shit to people, but he was serious. Like he was like, so he told that story. But Keith started being like, are you funny? And I'm like, yeah. He was like, well, I want to see a set. So I fucking he got me a guest spot at CB's Comedy Club. I was nervous as fuck, but I fucking did it. And I was like, I was funny, but I thought like Keith was gonna be like, yeah, man, you funny, blah blah blah. Keith, like we were walking back to the cellar, like it's the cellar. Walk from cellar to CB's is probably like a 10-minute walk. But within that 10 minutes, he just was airing me out. He was like, what were you talking about? He was like, yeah, you. I was like, but they were laughing. She's like, they were laughing. But if you ask any of those people what your funniest joke was or who you are or any of that shit, they won't fucking be able to tell you because they don't know. He was just like, you were just up there making noise, being funny, but you weren't saying shit. You weren't being memorable. What the fuck do you talk about? Like, what's your life like? Like, how'd you grow up? And then that's when I was like, oh, I grew up in foster care. He was like, that's what the fuck you talk about. That's what he's like, that'll lead you everywhere else. He's like, if you open up about growing up in foster care and having a mom on drugs and all that shit, he was like, you will have a career. And I believed him. So I did that shit. And then I watched shit start coming in. Like I started like doing NACAs. I started doing like longer spots at the comedy club, and then I started getting Montreal auditions and then stuff like that. So I watched this shit turned because this dude like really gave me the best advice ever. He was like, just talk about your life, and that gives you permission to talk about everything else.
Anything you fucking want.
Yeah, and he was
That's awesome.
right. Yeah.
Keith is a good dude, and I've known Keith my entire career, but he's one of those dudes, and I'm not saying this to talk shit.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to remind him who I am every time we cross paths. And it's been that way the entire time. I'm like, he's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hey man, it's Pat House. He's like, oh yeah, what's up, dude? I'm like, yeah, it's just every 6 months.
Oh my god, that's funny as shit. I feel like he may be fucking with you. A part of me just think he's fucking with you just to see if you'll call him out on it.
You know what? Noted next time.
Yeah.
Noted for next time. But I want to backtrack to one thing, and I love that whole story that you basically mentioned every comedy club in New York City that you were hanging out at and doing stuff for.
Yeah.
So why did people tell you not to hang at the Cellar? And I'm asking you this because I only spent 1 year doing the New York scene, and that's the only place I hung out.
Yeah.
And I fucking loved it. I knew I wasn't getting on, but I'm sitting at a table, and I know Dave Attell. Dave says hi to me. I know Nick DiPaolo, Colin Quinn, whoever, Marina Franklin, they all walk by, they all say hello. That's where I felt the most comfortable hanging because I guess from all my comedy club experience on the road, I knew a lot of headliners that worked the Cellar. So to me, that was the only place I hung out because that's where I felt comfortable. That's so weird to me. That was my only hangout.
Yeah. I don't know why they would tell me not to hang out there, but they were very adamant about it. They were very like, nah, man, you're going to fucking look like a loser and this, that, and the third, and you'll never get in that place. And I don't even see those people who told me that. Like, I don't see them doing comedy at all.
That's always the fucking case.
Yeah. But like, they were completely wrong because the same thing was happening. Like, same thing that happened with you happened to me. Like, I would go there, but only person I knew was Keith. But Keith introduced me to like Bobby Kelly and all those people. And then I started like just snapping, like busting on people because they would cut on me. And then I would like chip at Bobby's weight or him being bald or something like that. And they'd be like, who the fuck is this dude? But in a good way, like, oh shit, he's not going to let us like just fucking sit here and yell at him. He's going to
one of us.
He's one of us. So what happened was, this is a fun story. I like talking about this. But
please.
So what happened? What ended up happening is I would like run around the city. I would try to do as many open mics and spots as possible. But every night at like 12:30 or 1, I'm at the Cellar hanging out. I'm not sitting at the back table, but I'm standing near it, or I'm fucking like sitting close to it and
watching
like
it creepily.
Watching it, but no, because like Godfrey, Bobby Kelly, Keith, like all those guys kind of embraced me and Chris, and then Derek started hanging out, and then we like just like became like we would never say we are a part of that group, but like we kind of like started being those guys who they were like, oh, these may be the next dudes, right? So we just kept hanging there. We would like hang there. We would be loud. Like Liz, Liz, the manager, she started calling us surround sound. Like she would come to the table and tell us to shut the fuck up, but it was always in a playful way. And like she like started to like us and take a liking to us and like just like help us out if she could. Like when was that shit Stand Up for Diversity came to the Cellar. Yeah. She was like, why the fuck are y'all standing outside? And we was like, oh, because we got to wait in this line. And she was like, come in here, come get some food. Like she let us eat for free. We had breakfast there, all of that shit. And then she was like, when they say your name, I'll bring you downstairs. But like they took care of us. So like the thing that like the Cellar's not open and they're not warm to people, that was a fucking lie. It was just those people got rejected and they thought it was the general consensus, like they're rejecting everybody. But like I feel like because I was hanging there, I started to really have a career because I was having conversations with headliners. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, why wouldn't I want to be around fucking headliners? Like I don't like we learn from being around each other and being open micers and shit, but we learn more from being around the Ted Alexandros, the Bobby Kellys, the Keith Robinsons, and all that shit. But like, dude,
yes, that's so crazy to me. It's like, don't hang at the Cellar, and I've been told that too. don't hang at the cellar. Why? Because that's where all my favorite comics are. This makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, I got into the cellar. Now I can say this because Esty confirmed it because I had to do like the cellar podcast, and then she asked us if we remember how we got in the cellar, and I didn't audition. I didn't audition to get in the cellar because I was always there, and I was like everybody was talking about me, and like it happened the same time that I did last comic. When I got the call to do last comic, to to audition, and then like I got it, I came back, and that same week I guess Keith told Esty or whatever, and then Esty was like, hey, when it like send me your avails, and I was like, for what? And she was like, for the fucking do stand up, dum dum. And I was like, really? And I got so nervous, I wrote my credits down wrong. I wrote because the last comic stand would have been the credit, but I wrote it down. I was so nervous that like I wrote that shit down wrong. Like I spelled something different or whatever.
Or like Laugh House Standing.
Yo, and it was like I was so fucking nervous, and I sent it to her, and that's what she put that on the website for like when they advertise their people's credits, and I was so embarrassed to be like, hey, that's not how you spelled that. That was just a typo. But yeah, man, because I'm glad I didn't listen to that person. But yeah, it didn't happen fast. None of that shit was fast, but it felt like it was taking forever, but it was fucking worth it just to like go to the cellar, be at the cellar getting yelled at. Like we used to get cursed out by the security guard named Calvin because he fucking hated us because Keith would make us hang out with him at 4 a.m. But if you don't work there, you're not allowed to hang out there once they close. Like they close at like 3, but Keith and them are hanging out to 4. And Calvin is coming over to us like, yo, y'all got to get the fuck out of here. And Keith would be like, yo, don't talk to them like that. They're with me. Like, relax, chill out. He's like, I don't care. They got to go. But the moment we got past there, he became our friend. He was like, hey, y'all need anything? And we wanted to take advantage of the situation, but we couldn't because we were like,
Yeah. Just all these high demands just to make him
yo,
do it.
like, give me some hummus, bitch. But nah, Calvin's a cool dude, but he hated us in the beginning. Like in the beginning, he couldn't wait to get us the fuck out of there. Like we would watch him. Like we would be sitting there talking, and then we make eye contact with him, and he'll nod his head like, "Yup, it's that time." And we just had to get the fuck up and go. And we'd be like standing outside, trying to talk to Keith, and Keith was like, I'm not coming out there. Y'all fucking coming here. Stop being a bitch. And we're like, no, I'm not fucking with that. But like, yeah, no, it was worth it. Like the hardest comedy club to get into though, like even after I was passed at the cellar, was the comic strip.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, the comic strip, like
I did one show there. I had a Just for Laughs audition there. Did not get Just for Laughs, but that's where my audition was. I just did the one set there. But I know that club is an amazing history. There's a book about it.
Yeah, no, like, but they hold on to that history because, like, after even all those shit, it was like they don't care. They were like, I remember walking in like, hey, how like acting new, but like just waiting for somebody to go, well, what have you done? So I can be like, well, I've been on this, and this. And I remember walking in there expecting that and nothing. Just like, hey, I want to know like who does the booking and blah blah blah. And they pointed me right back to the late night booker. And I was like, but I have this, and it was like, well, that's who you have to talk to. And like for a while, Sherrod Smalls is the reason I got into that club.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Sherrod, like, kind of like, Sherrod knows everybody, but like Sherrod just like he was like, you work here? And I was like, nah. And he was like, all right, I'll fix that shit. And like 2 days later, I got an email asking for avails, but it took a while.
No kidding.
Yeah, like.
Well, that's awesome, dude. And it's amazing, that you moved up there and had so many people in your back pocket.
Not back pocket. I wouldn't say back pocket. I'm just saying like
now, well, yes. I know
people to think, well, I think the misconception is like a lot of people think that comics are like these fucking selfish people, and they're not. Comics support funny. Like there's no way you can like I would love to open up for fucking Sebastian Maniscalco. There's no way you can open up for Sebastian if you're not funny. You get what I'm saying? So it's like comics support each other, but
It's
people like
trust. And
there's this trust. They just want to fucking know you can like go through the grind and shit like that. But like they're like doing comedy, like, and then hearing other people's things, like people used to think like, oh man, it's a dog eat dog world, comics will fucking backstab each other. All that shit is true, but a lot of the comics that I've encountered have always been nice. They've been cool. They've looked out when they could, and like they support people who aren't just funny, but who fucking grind. And the
yes,
and the older comics do that. And it's always like this, older comics are bitter. It's like they're not. They just want to see you fucking changing your own tire.
I have the exact same experience.
Man.
It's like game recognizes game.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if people see you work hard and that you care, that you're passionate and you're not a dickhead and you got work.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
How's your calendar looking for 2021?
2021 has been a lot of online stuff. I've been doing like a little bit more college gigs and stuff like that. I haven't really been pushing to do the road. I've been focusing on developing a show.
Nice.
So
Oh, do you
yeah.
mind sharing, or is that something under wraps for
Well,
now?
I can't say who I'm
No, it's fine.
developing it with, but I can say it's based on just like my life growing up in foster care. But I play like a social worker dealing with like a version of my real life family. So it's like me as a social worker trying to correct the problems that I dealt with in foster care. So I'm developing that, and I've been doing seminar. Now I won't say seminars, but basically like just like talking about growing up in foster care to like colleges and stuff like that. So that's what I've been mainly focusing on, and just like kind of develop, because I feel like one of my friends, she gave me some really good advice. She was like, if you have agents and managers and you're only doing stand up, then you're wasting their time. And at first I took offense to that because I was like, what? That don't make no fucking sense. But she made sense because she was like, they have other clients who are bringing them fucking ideas. They're bringing them work. Like only one person gets paid off a stand up, but if you bring them an idea for them to build, then that'll keep you at the front of their mind. So I was like, all right, and I just went back to doing that because I was doing that once I started really working. Like I would like try to develop shit. I had like pilots that didn't go. That was like I had a pilot with Comedy Central that didn't go. I had some shit with Vice that didn't go. MTV, True TV, but I was just like, and that shit fucking like hits you mentally. Like you start to like I can't make it general, but for me, I was like, oh man, there ain't no fucking, I shouldn't even be doing this because it's hard. I might as well just stick to stand up. But then her like kind of opening that gate up again, like, nah, dumb, keep doing that shit because that's how the fuck you actually like make a living. And if you create jobs for people, then they'll be willing to keep giving you shit. So when she said that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So when this pandemic hit, my focus shifted from like doing stand up to like, all right, what else can I do with my funny? Can I write? Can I act? What else can I get going? So
Yeah, of
yeah.
course. We all had to shift.
You got to shift, man. Like you're doing the fucking podcast. I did a podcast, but then I needed to stop so I can focus on this shit. But
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, do you
yeah.
still have interest in keeping yours up?
Well, no, I don't. I don't have the podcast anymore. Well, I left as a co-host, so it was me and Derek. But now took a step back so I can focus on like those things, like getting the show moving forward, and like and just like really trying to like create stuff like TV shows and ideas and stuff. So Dave Temple took over for me.
Oh, nice. Great dude. Another
Yeah.
great dude.
Oh yeah,
From
no, he's
Philly.
yeah, but yeah, man. So that's what the pandemic. That's the shift with the pandemic because I had like stand up here is fucking. I won't say it's dead, but it's kind of like right
Dead.
now. Yeah, it's just like you're doing shows on a rooftop, and that was fun. Like I had a great time, but then it's not fun doing stand up in a fucking full winter attire. Like you got a scully on, some gloves, a fucking thick ass coat under a heat lamp, and then everybody's like bundled up, and they got on their mask, so they're not really laughing. They're just doing like head nods and like, and it was
Thumbs
just
up,
like,
fist pumps.
yeah. And I'm like, all right, man. Like I'm married. I don't know if you know that, but I got
I do
married.
know you are.
Yeah, so
And I do have this written down because I take a little bit of notes. I like the podcast to be natural, but I do have bullet points.
Mhm.
Dude, your fucking dog is so cute.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, she's
Oh
bad.
my god, those eyes.
Yo, right? Those shits.
Oh
She look like a White
man,
Walker.
dude. Certain dogs, you look at their face and you just want to take both your hands and just scrunch it to death. Like
Yeah.
you
like, I want to smash it.
You can't get enough.
Yeah, no, this dog is cute, but we're going to put her in training because like she's like hyper and she like nips at her face and shit. But she's a puppy.
That's scary.
Yeah, so we're
because,
like, nah.
because they're playing, but you're like, I'm gonna lose my cheek.
Yeah, it's like somebody playing with knives. It's like, hey, I get it. Like you're just joking, but you can fucking hurt me, yo. So back the fuck up.
Do you have any live dates for the calendar? Or are you going to try to hit the road this year at all?
I want to, but I'm not. I don't know how I feel about saying it, but I'm not really pushing to do the road as much as I used to because I want to try. I just want to shift into this other part of my career and really see like if I can like create projects and shit like that. Like if I can get this show to actually be on TV, and I feel like the road will be different for me because you've been at the shows. Like it's not sold out. And like 3-4 years of that, like of like not really having your numbers increased, even though you've done like stand up on TV. It's kind of like, all right, so there has to, like, to me, I'm like, all right, there has to be another way to get people in. And most people who have a draw either have successful podcasts, a fucking dope ass special, or a television show. And I'm like,
cool. I have none of those. That's awesome.
Yeah. You will.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, man, the pandemic put us all in a different direction. I have some ideas too, but I am hitting the road a little bit later this year.
Yeah.
And it's still fun, but I'm well aware that like the pandemic, not just the podcast, but I have a couple other ideas as well. Like it made us all reroute. And then who even knows like when stand-up comes back to normal, how different it's going to be.
Yeah.
Are the same people coming out? You know, there's so many variables.
It'll be different. It'll definitely be a different type of people. I feel like the people like you and me, like the people who like really were sticking it out during this pandemic and like sticking with comedy, we're going to be the next guys. It was like when that writer strike happened, and then like it was like an influx of fucking like comics, but then once everybody started going back to work, then you started getting this newer like new class of comedy where you're like, who the fuck are these people? Like this is our shit to go through, I guess. Like we have to go through this shit in order to like be the next group of people.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see to see who hangs around.
Yeah,
like it could be a whole different lineup of comedians next year in clubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, there are, man, like at least with like, I don't know if it's been the same with you, but me and Derek have been talking about it. We were like, we'll go to these shows, these rooftop shows, and there's just so many new comics, and we're like, what the fuck? Like, who starts comedy during a pandemic?
I got an email about that back in April. So the pandemic had just first started. Mm-hmm. And this guy, you know what, truth be told, I forget his name. So I can't even, not that I would name drop it anyways, but I don't recall his name. But he's like, hey man, I've seen you a couple times in Philly. You're really funny. I'm not working right now, but I'm writing some stuff down. And I would like to know how to get the wheels rolling on being a comic. I'm like, don't start during a global pandemic.
I'm like, you're going to have the worst experience ever.
Keep writing during this entire time, and maybe you'll have a book at the end, best case scenario. Is there anything you want to plug here at the end, dude?
Damn, I don't have anything to plug.
Yes, you do. Your website's awesome, and you have a
Oh,
bunch of
thank you.
your stand-up clips on there.
Yes, yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Make sure y'all check out monroemartincomedy.com. That's where you can see all of my televised sets, including my late night set that's not on YouTube because Kevin Spacey. Um No, I'm being honest. I'm being serious. So
All
like,
right. Well, can you share that quickly?
yeah, so when I like so all of the late night sets are on YouTube, right? Like if you Google somebody who did late night with Jimmy Fallon, it'll come on YouTube. But if you Google mines, it won't. It will come up on their website, but you really have to check for it. So I had my manager ask, like, "Hey, like, what the fuck did I do? Like, is the set bad? Because it was a good set." And they were like, "No, because of the Kevin Spacey thing, we blacked out his episode." But Monroe's clip is available on the website, but it won't be placed on YouTube or something like that because of also the YouTube contract. But they were like, because of the Kevin Spacey episode, we had to black it out. But that happens a lot in TV, I guess, because that recently, like, my wife watches the Food Network, and some lady had killed her foster kids, and they just took the entire season down. Like, you can no longer watch it. So when somebody fucks up like that, they just go, we're no longer associated with them. So my episode of Fallon isn't available to watch. Like, if you search for it, it'll be grayed out. So I had to rip it off of their site somehow and then like put it up on my website.
Oh my God! So you
Yeah.
wait. So you and Kevin were guests on the same episode.
We were a guest on the same episode. They said, yeah.
Did you see him?
Yeah. He seemed like a cool dude. Like, he really didn't like he walked in the hallway and he was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," and that was it. But like, the coolest person on the show was the Roots. Like, I said the Roots like their one person. But it was like Questlove and Black Thought, and then I met Keegan Michael Key, who
Yeah.
was fucking cool as fuck. And then
And also, let's interject. Sorry, Philly.
yeah, wait, Keegan
So,
Michael Key is from Philly?
well, the Roots.
Oh yeah, the Roots are, oh yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, the Roots, they've been super fucking cool. And then Mae Whitman. Those are the people I met. Mae Whitman is the girl from Good Girls and
Okay,
Duff and the Duff.
I know the face. I think.
Yeah. She was on she was also on Arrested Development, but she's not maybe. She played the girl that they left in like in fucking like Italy or some goofy shit like that. Or Mexico.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but all of those people on that episode, and because Kevin Spacey fucked the kid, they had to take it down.
Your career gets affected.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's why that is on my website and it's not on YouTube, because the moment I place it on YouTube, they will rip it down.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. But the plan is,
but you can talk about it here.
yo, absolutely. I can talk about the set or do whatever I want. I just can't post it anywhere. I can't post, like, I posted it on Instagram, like the full thing, and I got flagged and they got taken down by NBC. I posted it on YouTube, it got flagged and taken down, but there's no way you can track it on my site because it's not through a YouTube clip. It's through like a physical, like I uploaded it to my website.
Wow.
But I'm planning on I want to do another one anyway, because
that makes for a super cool story anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
you get your big break doing the Tonight Show, but then you're doing the Tonight Show with Kevin Spacey, and it's like, all right, well, it's a different ball game now.
Yeah. But the thing was, it was like he was Kevin Spacey at that time, so it wasn't even like anything wrong until like that happened, and it was like, oh shit, damn. It's like, why didn't they take all the other Trump clips down then, right?
Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I appreciate it.
Dude, no, thank you for having me on, man. It's good catching up with you.
Likewise, man. We had a lot of good times together, and I hope we get to cross paths soon. But no, man, we have a lot of good history in Philly comedy. And, dude, I loved hearing your stories and everything. So, Monroe Martin, thank you for being here, dude.
Thanks, Pat. Whole use. Appreciate it.
Oh,
remember that shit?
Shit. Oh, fuck you.
Yeah,
All right.
All right, man.
Monroe Martin.